appreciate your time today, and appreciate all the energy you bring to Midstrong. You're an awesome member. I'm really grateful to have you, and really grateful that you take this time to share some of your experiences that you've had here at Midstrong. So if we could, I'd love for you to, tell me a little bit about what brought you to us. What was it that made you decide to join Midstrong?
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. I love being a part of the Midstrong team, and it's a pleasure to be here. What brought me here was my wife, Nancy. As most of our decisions, she makes the better of the two of us, and she discovered Midstrong before I did. And I've been active most of my life, but it's been sporadic at times based on whatever's going on in my life. And so I really was reticent to dive into anything unless I could really commit to it. So she committed first for almost a year, and she said, I really think you'd like this, and she was right. So I started a little over a year ago, and it's just changed my life, really.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. And it's been a great year just to have you. It's like I was mentioning earlier, the energy you bring and so positive energy, attitude you have to life in general. It's just refreshing, to bring, and it's contagious here in the gym. So,
and I think a lot of people at Midstrong share that, positive attitude, which is great.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's great.
We have roughly 100 members, and it's a fascinating observation in terms of humanity. When you get 100 people together, you're going to have this, diversity of personalities and attitudes and things like that. And it's such a blessing to us that so many, basically all of those 100 people or so, are awesome people who energize us. And we have no bad apples. There's nobody that's a jerk that we wish we didn't have.
Right.
So you think, oh gosh, how do you end up with a company that you're fortunate enough that there's every one of your customers is a great one that you sort of cherish working with.
Well, I think it's a reflection on you and Julie too, and the culture that you've created.
Well, thank you.
Sure,
Awesome.
It's great. And it's interesting, as you said, with so many people in so many different walks of life, they all connect in this one place. They all care enough about their health and their health span to be here.
Awesome. Well, great. Thank you for the health span plug. That's awesome too. We're going to talk about that in a minute. So were there any reservations or concerns that you had prior to joining, just in general about health or about Midstrong or any of it that you were like, well, something that might have held you back? And the reason I ask is I imagine that if you had some of these, there are others out there who share these, and we want to encourage folks to say, hey, you're not the first one and the only one that has something they're concerned about, and it's holding them from taking this important step.
Sure. I think, the only reservations I had were I was considering that I had really only two options at the time. One was to either join a gym that was a little bit too hardcore, if you will, for where I'm at in my life, or to do it on my own, and I usually chose the latter. Over time, I just, having been active when I was younger, I thought, I can do this myself, and why I never wanted to be one of those people who paid for a gym membership and never went, and so I refused to do that. And fortunately, I refused to do that because I didn't go for a while. But I knew at this stage of my life I needed to do something, other than just running and lifting on my own.
Yeah.
So, but my hesitation was, how to find the right fit for where I'm at in my life now. Yeah. And fortunately, I had Nancy do the screening for me. And
you're scouting.
Yep. And she was dead on. Awesome. It's I never thought. I used to say I'm not a morning workout guy. I used to say that. And you can convince yourself a lot of things.
Never miss a 6:30 now.
Yeah. Well, you can convince yourself a lot of things, And I forget who said it, but you're going to make time in your life for the things that are important to you. Whether that's scrolling the internet or getting up and going to the gym. Whatever it is that's meaningful in your life, you're going to make time for it. And so here I am, as you say, like clockwork in the morning. It's just become part of my life, and it's great.
Yeah, and for those who can't work out in the morning, I get it. The schedules and life sometimes don't permit that. But gosh, it's such a great feeling to have it done,
right?
And to have it just off your shoulders for the day.
Yeah.
I tend to have to work out in the afternoons just because I'm training people in the morning, and it's just the time's not available to me. But I would love to have it done at say 7:30 in the morning every morning. Be like, hey, my rest of my days have had to be without that.
Right. You never know what's going to come up,
Right.
Professionally or personally. So to get out of the way in the morning is great.
So true. Then before you kind of came to Midstrong and we started to sort of zero in on this concept of healthspan, is that something you had heard of or even considered in terms of how you looked at your future?
No, because like most of us, I consider myself younger than I am, and so I always had a younger
50-something going on 20-something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I definitely looked at it as, feeling like that's health span. First of all, I had never heard of the concept before, and now I completely buy into it. But it was more like, what my fitness level, more than so very much in the present and not looking forward.
Right.
And it's just so important now that I'm where I'm at, and my kids are getting towards marrying age, and we'll have grandchildren before you know it, and I want to be able to be active in my later years and play with my grandchildren and travel with my wife and enjoy my later years. So
Absolutely.
I feel like this is just a really critical piece of that.
And I wonder if that recognition or realization is just part of life. You're a couple years older than me, but in that same phase of life where the kids are out of the house now, and I'm more aware of my mortality, but even more so, I'm more aware of how I want to cling to my abilities to enjoy whatever mortality I have,
Yes.
however long my lifespan is.
Definitely.
And that's really what, sort of inspired me to say that's what we're really about.
Right.
That's Midstrong's purpose, is to, help us to retain the ability to do things we love with the people we love for as long as we live.
Awesome. I think we're at the stage where a lot of us are losing parents. And so we see that later, end stage of life and how it can be both positive and challenging. And, if we can control what we can control, there's certain things out of our control, but boy, if we can take steps now to make those years more active and mobile.
Yeah, and we can, which is
Right.
wonderful.
Yeah.
And with the advances in medical technology and medicine in general, and these better understandings of lifestyle changes that we can impact or we can affect now that have a massive impact later in our health span. The longevity, lifespan possibility becomes really pretty impressive.
Sure.
And it's funny because you're a financial planner
Mm-hmm.
and have a very active and prosperous financial planning business. The sort of parallels of the two are so remarkable.
Yes.
The things that we should be doing now that have impact on
Yes.
our marginal decades,
Yeah.
are profound. And so I've always kind of found this amazing analogy, sort of parallel between the two. It's
Yeah.
kind of cool.
No question. I've drawn the same parallel, actually. Over the years, when I was in a good groove, working out, feeling really good, I said, why would I ever not do these things that I do that make me feel so good, And the same is true for anybody in any profession, I think, is that the things that you need to do to be successful, and yet sometimes you get in a rut or you get distracted or whatever, and you say, why wouldn't I do these things that are successful, that make me successful?
Yeah, and we sort of pin that rut, or the cause of that rut that so many people sort of get stuck in as busyness.
Right.
And then in modern life, it just seems like everybody I know is possibly busy, and they pack their lives with lots of good things too, but leaving very little margin of time to invest in themselves.
Right.
And then when they order their priorities, so many folks are like, well, I know this is important to me, but I have all of these other things that have to come first.
Right.
And the paradox of that is the more you invest in your health span, the better you can serve all those other priorities.
Sure.
And so
Yeah.
it's in that respect too, sort of similar to investing.
Yeah.
If you put that money aside, it's gonna not just bear returns, it's gonna be useful to you
That's
later.
Right. People don't tend to spend time in the important but not urgent
Right.
part of their lives.
Yeah, totally, in that quadrant.
Yeah.
Well, cool. So in your state of health before you joined, you've been an athlete all your life. Is it okay to talk about your health scare you had?
I woke up one morning in 2018 with a lump on my neck, and immediately knew it wasn't normal.
Yeah.
And went to my primary care physician and said, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And it took some time to diagnose, but I had cancer of the neck, essentially. And so it was a tough year, you know, went through, you know, treatment, and it was a tough 6 weeks, 8 weeks. But I felt like I had a good perspective on life already, so it wasn't like I needed a wake-up call. You know, fortunately, I've got a great family situation, and I'm just blessed in so many ways. But these things happen, and I think the silver lining was, you know, our kids get to see that we practice what we preach, you know, when you face adversity, and the strength of our marriage and the strength of our faith at the time. So, you know, good things come from all challenges, I think. And here I am out the other end, and I can't wait to be at the point. I have friends who have had cancer, and many of them, I'll say to them, I forget that you even had cancer, you know? And I'm getting toward that stage, and I want to be there, where it's just, you know, something that's happened. I mean, it touches so many people, you know, in all of our lives. So, but as you said, with medical advances, so many cancers are curable now, and as mine was. So I'm pretty lucky.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
We're glad you've been so lucky. So tell me about your Midstrong experience so far. You know, what, just in general, how do you like it? What do you like most about it? So forth.
Love it.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely love it. Love the, you know, the side benefits are the community, you know, make new friends, and we all share, as I said earlier, no matter where they come from in their lives, we share this space and we share this commitment to being healthy, and so that's been awesome. And just, you know, it's exactly what I need at this stage of my life. It challenges me. It doesn't put me at risk of injury. I mean, I see people my age doing things that they probably shouldn't try doing, and they end up being injured, and, you know, what have they accomplished? So, so to do it in a place that's safe with the proper instruction, and it's just been awesome, and it's changed my life, really. You know, and I think that some of my favorite things are, you know, without even really trying. So I used to sort of make a declaration. I'm going to get in shape, you know, like so many people do for, you know, New Year's resolutions. They declare, I'm going to eat right, and I'm going to get in shape. And so they make this big event. And I used to do that. You know, got to stop the insanity. I'm going to do this.
New Year's
right?
resolutions.
You're right.
Yeah.
Well, and I didn't usually make those, but I'd make them throughout the year.
Yeah.
I declare I'm going to do this. And I would say it to my wife. I would declare I'm going to do this. And this time I just said, okay, enough of the talk, you know.
Yeah.
So without any fanfare, I just started. And, you know.
Yeah, it was like a random time of year too, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah, it was in September or so, you know. And it was kind of nice. I didn't feel like I was making a resolution or a declaration. I just started, you know. And not to say just do it, but you know.
There's a lot of wisdom in just do it.
It is, just take action. It doesn't mean, you know, you have to succeed right away. It just means just take action. And that's what I did. And then one day became a week, became a month, became a year, and now it's just a part of my life, and I love it.
That's the best, yeah. You know, and so the consistency aspect of it is beyond measure. Like you know, intensity is important, right? So being able to give a real hard effort for a workout or lift heavy or all those things, but it's really about showing up 3 times a week at 6:30 in the morning religiously. Right. That makes the difference. So in it, again, the financial planning parallels are pronounced. You know, it's like consistent dollar cost averaging. Right. You know, take it out of your paycheck, you won't even know it's missing.
That's right. Yep. It's funny. Just recently, two comments stood out recently, and one was from a good friend of mine, a colleague. We saw each other at a conference, and all he said was, "Whatever you're doing, keep it up." Yeah. That's all he said. Cool. And so it was nice. I mean, I'm not doing it for any type of recognition or anything. I'm doing it for myself and for my family. But it was really nice to hear that. And then the other was, literally yesterday morning, I got a text from my daughter, and she said, after a long weekend, I was thinking about skipping my workout this morning. She said, but I saw how consistent you've been, and it made me go. Yeah, and awesome. She did it. It was great. So.
Well, you know, there's a lot of things we want to do with our children and for our children, but honestly, modeling good health, and you know, good lifestyle habits is maybe one of the biggest things we can do for our adult children. Yeah. And so that's awesome. And you and Nancy are doing that, you know, in spades. So. Well,
fortunately, we learn from the kids too. You know, they've got good habits. So.
Like a good parents.
Goes both ways.
Awesome. Can you think of anything really measurable or tangible that you can do now that you didn't do before, or sort of breakthroughs that you've experienced just in the functional aspect of the fitness that you've accumulated in the year you've been?
It's funny, I don't really take stock in that, but if I, as I did think about before this interview, just the chores around the house, just anything that needs strength or agility is just so much easier than it was before, And even though I, kidded myself into thinking I was in shape before, I really wasn't as agile as I would like to have been. And so it's just a lot easier to just move about. I mean, we do so much sitting in our lives, at a computer or behind the wheel of a car. And
Totally.
so it really helps me counterbalance that. And so I found those things to be, less painful. Life is less painful.
Well, and I find myself being more mindful of how often I'm sitting. I think the typical American, and this is just a non-scientific observation, this is just Paul Riley's guess, right? But if somebody's awake for 16 hours, they're sitting or lying or something like 15 and a half of those hours in a typical day.
Wow.
Because if you basically stand up to walk somewhere to sit down,
Right.
and how much time you spend on your feet is just a tiny little fraction a day, except for us.
Well, it's funny, you take it for granted, that you think, I bet if you polled people, they would say that they were active much more, a higher percentage of the day than they actually are.
Yeah.
Because it's usually when you're in motion and you're going somewhere, you have something on your mind, you have something to accomplish, and so they probably think, yeah, I moved around today.
Yeah.
And the reality is, you're probably right, it's
It's kind of scary.
percentage.
Now the little wearables things, Apple Watches and Fitbits and things like that help with that because they just create awareness of how immobile we are as a culture.
Yeah.
But it's a sad thing, honestly, about the state of health in America. Is that, we essentially sit most of our lives right now.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could say anything to your former self, so either a younger Brian or a slightly more middle-aged Brian,
Right.
Or to somebody, a gentleman such as yourself who's considering taking some kind of step, any advice you have for that person?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I've always said this in my adult life, and that is, to find something that fits into your lifestyle and is sustainable. Because if you try to do something that's way out of the ordinary, you're not likely to sustain it. And that's why for years I didn't go to the gym, because I knew that I couldn't get up and get there before work, and I probably wouldn't get there after work. So it got to the point where I decided to make the time. And so I'll go back to what I said before, and that is, you don't have to declare to achieve this momentous thing. It's just starting it and fitting it into your lifestyle. And whether that's Midstrong or something else, whatever regimen someone chooses, it just has to be, committed to and become woven into the fabric of your life.
Yeah.
And otherwise it's, it's that drudgery, I have to do this. I know it's way overused these days, but the whole have to do something versus you get to do something.
Yeah, no, it's so true.
And when you see other people who struggle with health issues or handicaps or anything else, it's like we do get to do this, and it's amazing. So make the most of it.
Yeah, I so want to emphasize this. There's the get to, have to, and the gratitude versus sort of dreaded.
Right.
So there's that piece too. But it's also just a matter of how do you make it a part of your mindset so that it's not just one more thing on the plate. Now, part of that is, how much do you enjoy it?
Right.
And we're fortunate that, blessed that so many people do enjoy working out with us, and yourself first amongst them. But if it's not Midstrong, it might be walking, it might be mountain biking, it might be whatever it is for you that you don't dread,
Right.
that you actually look forward to doing. In many ways that's the key, because if it's just that one more, obligation
Right.
on an already overflowing plate, it's hard to stick with it and sustain it.
Yeah. Well, I think what I found different about Midstrong is that I would never work out as hard as I do by myself. As much as I'd like to think that I would, I just wouldn't. I would still work out, but I would stop sooner. I wouldn't do as many reps. I wouldn't do it in a systematic way. So to have professionals there to guide you through and make sure you're doing it right, first of all, to be safe while you're doing it. I do exercises that I never would have, imagined on my own to do. And so I feel like it's just a total body fitness, and the coaching and professionalism to boot. So it's night and day from trying to do something on my own.
That's cool. Is there a day of the week that you like most?
I started out I started out 3 days a week. Actually, I started out 2 days a week. So again, instead of, going from 0 to 100, I decided to sort of ease my way in.
Yeah, just get started.
Yeah, so for the first couple of months, or maybe even 6 months, I think I went 2 days a week. And so, and every day is a little bit different. So I never even considered at the time going 5 days a week, And then I built it up to 3, and occasionally I think I had my first 5-day week this month, and it felt great because every day is different. So I don't think I have a favorite. I really don't. I mean, every day focuses on something slightly different, so it's never, repetitive or boring. It's been great. So no, I don't have a favorite day.
You're such a positive guy.
I do.
That's awesome. I like them all too.
Yeah.
Because I came up with a whole method. Yeah, I will admit that weightlifting Wednesday as a coach is my favorite day, because I just feel like that's my sort of zone of genius where I'm helping people
Really?
lift heavy stuff.
Honestly, just based on the way I grew up and the sports that I played and how I trained for them, that's probably the day that comes the most easily to me.
Yeah.
Is weightlifting Wednesday.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you're a beast.
Well, yeah, right. If you had asked me that, in the first 6 months, I would have automatically said Wednesday. But now that I've had a chance to experience all 5 days, they're pretty neck and neck.
That's cool. Yeah, oh, I love that. Well, any other thoughts that you'd want to share?
I just think, Nancy and I have met new friends, which was never part of our, objective. It was just to be healthy and just to, we weren't happy with where we were health-wise. And we were making some efforts to address it, but just not concerted efforts. And so I was really lucky to have Nancy discover Midstrong. We already knew you, both you and Julie, but to discover Midstrong and all of its benefits. So I think, again, not to just completely support only Midstrong. There's a lot of, opportunities out there for people to be healthy. So find the right one, that fits your lifestyle. And without a doubt, where we're at midlife and wanting to be healthy and leading our busy lives, it's worked out so well for us, and we're so grateful to you guys.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And you mentioned how lucky you are to have Nancy, for whether it's for helping you find Midstrong or just in general.
Yeah, in
I
general.
totally appreciate that sentiment. Yeah, I married up, and quite blessed that she's still with me,
Right.
especially after 10 years of working together 8 days a week.
Oh, that's awesome.
But
That's a good sign.
well, thank you, Brian. You're a good man.
My pleasure.
And really
Thank you.
a pleasure to have with us here at Midstrong, and thank you for helping me with this project.
Thank you.